So let me ask you this. So you mentioned Muay Thai, right? So there's two types of kickboxing, right? Prominent in the world. One is Muay Thai, and then the other one is from Europe, right? Like,
Mhm.
what's the difference between two?
So, like the European, like it's more like kickboxing is like the European style, like the Dutch
Dutch
kickboxers.
kickboxing, yeah.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. So traditional Muay Thai to that what makes it different from like kickboxing is the tempo. Like Muay Thai is they're real slow starters. They'll wait, and then kickboxing, if you can I would say it's similar to the tempo of boxing, like the catch and counters like boxing, but it's punch and kick.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say that's the only real difference. And Muay Thai is a little bit like traditional Muay Thai is real. It's a little slow in the beginning, and they use more kicks. They're not quite as good boxers as some of the Dutch kickboxers.
And
Okay,
who's
got you.
well, if they use more kicks, would that be fair to say that the Muay Thai kicks are more they're much more deadly versus
Yes,
they're much stronger?
their kicks, their knees and elbows are much more deadly
Mm.
than well, kickboxing, you can't really throw elbows in like a kickboxing match, like a K1 match,
Right.
but you can throw knees.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say Muay Thai, their clinch game and knees and elbows.
That's
and
actually
their kicks.
something that from what I've heard, Dorian is like the master at is a clinch game
That's
in
awesome.
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great because a lot of Muay Thai gyms in the US, if they don't have like a guy that's actually trained traditionally in a Thailand, or they've trained under real Muay Thai guys, the clinch is terrible.
That's
Yeah.
and the funny part is when I was talking to him about it, and he said, like, when I brought it up, he almost like was like, that's like the nightmare zone. That's like his reaction to it, right?
Yeah.
He said it's very dirty and messy, and it's just extremely brutal of the
Right.
part of the sport.
Exactly. And it's very, very intricate in technical. So I
Shifting people's weight,
shifting
and,
people's
yeah.
weight, feeling where they're going, and then you can also sweep them too.
Right.
So it's very intricate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now going to boxing, right? So in boxing you have what the traditional boxing 16-ounce gloves, right? Then you go down to MMA.
Well,
What
no,
is it?
they don't wear 16-ounce gloves. They
10,
wear like
10,
10,
12.
12.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
fine. 10, 12. Well, we could talk about 16 because usually people train with 16, right? Like,
Yeah, you'll spar and train with 16-ounce gloves, 14
and then
ounce
10
gloves.
to 12, and then you go down to MMA, which is what, 4-ounce gloves?
Yeah.
And then you have bare knuckle.
Yeah.
What's the difference between traveling from the glove sizes, and why is it important to understand the different sizes of gloves?
It's so say if like a pure boxer fights with MMA gloves, the distance is off. You've got to be able to adjust the distance correctly. And then from going like wearing boxing gloves, training, sparring with 16-ounce gloves to bare knuckle, then the distance is even further, right? So
And well, real quick, for those who think that's bullshit, that's the same thing Corey told me. That's the first thing Corey told me when I asked him about BKFC and bare knuckle and the difference. Keep going.
yeah, so the distance, if 2 inches or an inch and a half
Matters.
matters a lot.
Because your jab is where you're gauging the distance, right? That's what the jab is for, to gauge the distance, because the cross is coming,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and so if you're unable to adjust that distance and your opponent does, like, you're gonna get beat every time. Bare knuckle, there's a and another note, like one of the reasons why I considered coming into bare knuckle is, as the years went on, they actually had some quality fighters come in. So I was like, it's not just like backyard brawls.
Right.
These guys aren't just, trying to kill each other. There's actually talented strikers that are coming into the game. So that really is what pushed me to sign with them.
Okay.
So if you have a guy that is able to make those adjustments in the fight, they're going to win every time. Or if you've got two guys that have made the adjustment, it's going to make for it. It's going to be an exciting fight regardless. It's going to be bloody, but it's going to be an exciting fight.
And the reason you say adjustment is because you can't train bare knuckle.
You can't.
So
yeah.
you have to make that adjustment in the fight, literally.
Yep.
Basically, right? So
Exactly.
you can't, because no one's gonna spar with you bare knuckle.
Right. Exactly.
So can you also tell, because I know we had this conversation short, very small when there was that fight, boxing fight going on, the difference of when it does connect, the glove versus MMA glove versus
Also
a bare
very
knuckle,
important, right?
what's the connection like, and what is the damage that gets done
And
by
the
each?
adjustments you gotta make too
Right.
from that connection.
So whenever you have the gloves on, even MMA gloves, like whenever you block and parry the punches, like you're able, like with a boxing glove for an example, you're able to block, and you've got this big
Pillow.
yeah. And then MMA is a little smaller, and then bare knuckle it's just you
Your
got
hands.
the size of your hands, right? So the distance, whenever we talk about distance, it's being able to just be out of their range, but just enough to get back in your range to hit solid strikes. So blocking is more here, is more here, kind of like you see MMA guys, is more
Yeah.
here. Parries are very important right here, and then if they're throwing hooks, it's all right there.
So you're using basically the outside part of the arm as a
Right.
glove to block everything.
Right, exactly. So like my chin's covered here, my side's covered here. So you've got to be able to know where you're at. A
And
lot
you're
of guys,
adjusting at the fly, right? Because
right,
even the placement of the arm is important.
right. So if he's throwing punches and then you see a hook coming, you've got to just be able to react, get that up there, then counter back. But the difference between getting hit with a glove, boxing or an MMA glove, boxing, yeah, like you can take it's thuds, right? It's thuds. You feel it. MMA, like they're a little harder because it's a smaller surface. And then when you get hit with bare knuckle, man, that it stings. It stings, boys. Stings and burns. It stings.
But is it you said it stings, so it's that sting, annoying sting, or is it like you are getting like?
I think it's a multitude of things. I think it's the thump. I think it's the friction of skin on skin is a big part. So it cuts the skin easier. It slices, and it's that when something hits you like a glove, it's like just that thump, like you said,
it's a
versus
thump.
that hand is that skin on skin friction,
Bone. Yeah.
direct bone.
Yeah.
It causes all those cuts, and it's like when you hit you hit your corner on your foot on the corner of a couch that's like padded,
Yeah.
versus like a hard corner.
Right.
Literally, like hitting your corner, like
Right.
on this granite right here.
Right.
Literally, is a difference.
Yeah.
Right.
It stings. So after like the first solid shot you take in bare knuckle, you're like, all right, yeah, I
This
felt
is what
that.
we're getting ready
yeah,
for,
It did.
okay.
We're here. And then after that, it kind of goes out the window. But the feeling is 100% different.
Because there's gotta be
Most
difference, right?
brutal for
Because
sure, huh?
bare knuckle, you're probably using these two knuckles more than anything, and then when you got the 12-ounce gloves, there's weight that's coming at you in addition to the fucking arm weight and
Right.
a fist weight. You got another 12 ounces that are flying at you. So do those fights, do those punches take a bigger toll or easier to knock out someone versus somebody that's doing bare knuckle, or there's probably about even if you get it right?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much even if you get it right. I think it takes more damage in like a boxing match because you're getting hit hundreds of times, maybe 200s of times in the head.
Yeah.
And if you're a tough guy and got a tough chin, you're not going to go down, but you're taking the damage.
Right.
Your brain is taking the damage.
That thud every time, over
Yeah.
and over.
And if you can hit them square on the chin, they drop, or hit them square on the jaw, they drop. Bare knuckle, if you do the same thing, they'll drop. But in bare knuckle,
Damage is
You-
so much more substantial.
yeah, the only bad thing about bare knuckle, it's actually safer to the brain, bare knuckle, but you do get cut a lot easier.
Less thuds. Less
Yeah.
amount of thuds.
Less amount of thuds. So
You can only take so many right to the jaw, bare knuckle versus
Right.
with a glove.
But then when you
Right.
get cut, then you get then you get the face with all the scars. Now any minute touch, you get a cut because that
Right.
skin is already rougher, right? Like it's thicker, so it's much easier to cut, right?
right. I look handsome, boys. I still look good.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought BKFC, boy. That's for sure. For example, Corey's got his eyes like nice and cut up. He's got some permanent scars. Like you look pretty good. Like your face hasn't got too beat up. You got the one on your eyebrow. That's about it, huh?
Yeah, I got the one on the eyebrow. Like you look close, I've got one here. I've got
You got
two,
the hair that
two
covers
of
it
them
a
here.
little bit.
Yeah,
So.
I've got two here. I've got some on my forehead. Down here, I got cut, and like it's.
I think it's crazy when you see some guys, for example, like look at Glover. You know Glover Teixeira in the UFC. He fought. He was recently the champion at like 40-something years old. He got choked out by Yuri. You look at Glover now versus when he was like in his 20s when he started fighting.
Yeah.
Dude, his face is
Jacked up.
insanely different.
Yeah,
It
look
looks
at
like
Vanderlei Silva, man.
yeah, like there's just so many
or-
guys
or-
that
yeah.
have like this literally like extra cap of fucking scar tissue that's
Yeah.
been applied to the front
Yeah.
front layer of their face.
Or even
Bro.
Nick and Nate Diaz, they're both of them. Like, you
Yeah.
know, they call him the paper skin, right? But like, there's a reason why it's paper skin because
I
they got
think-
punched so many fucking times in the face and so
Yeah.
many
Look
cuts.
at the best comparison to me is because Glover doesn't even look like the same person. Look at Glover back in like when he first started fighting before he got held off because he got held off from fighting because of a visa thing from Brazil for a long time.
So when was the fight career started around what 15,
Teixeira,
16?
TX,
About
something.
16, yeah.
16 years old. The reason I asked this is because, you know, I was watching Rogan, right? And he had Huberman on his podcast and they were talking about fighters, you know, when you start training fighters at a very young age, and they were talking about how Mayweather just stands there and he can kind of gauge when those fights are coming, and especially you can see this very well when he's fighting what's his name, Golden Boy,
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oscar De La Hoya, and as Oscar is like shooting these big hooks, Mayweather is just like whoop ducking it like an inch of a difference, you know. Now, do you think starting at 15 that was a good idea? Should you have started earlier?
Just look up young
What do you
Glover.
think about that?
Yeah, I wish I would have started younger. And the only reason for that is because when you start young, your brain's still developing and you're able to understand it better as you grow.
Things become habits easier.
Yeah, it's easier.
Right.
And then the amount of amateur fights that you have as a young guy,
Put it on that experience.
yeah, puts on the experience. That's why, some of these like who Lomachenko.
Yeah.
Lomachenko has like 300 plus amateur fights before he went pro.
Mhm.
And then you can see it when the guys that have had a long successful amateur career and then they turn pros, because it's different. There's definitely a big difference. Like you look at a guy like Lomachenko and then you look at a guy like Deontay Wilder. He's only good because he's an athlete, right? Boxing skill wise sucks, right?
I mean, we saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
More
saw that
recently.
recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was a guy that maybe had like 2 or 3 amateur fights, then went pro because his size and stature, and the heavyweight division has just kind of filtered, petered off over the years. So he was going to do good regardless, and he was able to. He had the 1-punch knockout, and that's what made him good. He was an athlete.